Liz, welcome to In The Pews.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Now, let me take a stab at your last name. Bencivengo?
Oh, that was perfect.
Was it? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, great. Because, your maiden name was a lot easier.
Oh, yeah. Adams.
Adams, yeah. I've had some friends have go from a lot easier conventional last names to a little more tricky ones. But your last name's not so bad. I think.
Yeah, sometimes they say Vincent Van Gogh. It's like Bencivengo, right?
Oh, yeah,
So,
that's a good way to tell somebody, yeah, Vincent Van Gogh, just make it rhyme with that. Yeah. So are you technically here with St. Bart's or?
I am at St. Bartholomew 2 days, Monday and Friday.
Uh-huh. But I mean, like organizationally, or is it just a completely different organization?
No,
Rejoice.
So I work with Rejoice Counseling, and we actually don't have a physical headquarters. Our headquarters is virtual, so we office out of different parishes that we partner with. So, I mean, there's a P.O. box, right?
Okay, so it's a partnership. You're not technically under the parishes. Okay.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so you're kind of like us.
Yes.
In the pews. We just
Yes.
we're squatting every once in a while in different places, right?
Yes.
And Rejoice, what exactly do they do? In a nutshell, real quick.
The mission of Rejoice is to place the gift of counsel at the service of the church. And the view or the vision is that we want Catholic counselors, people who identify as actually Catholic, to have a place where they feel like they can counsel according to their own values and counsel people who are looking for Catholic counselors, right? So a lot of people, especially Catholics, are weary of psychology, and for good reason. And so what we're trying to do is provide a way for people who are Catholic to receive counseling that's according to their own values and their own faith.
That's great. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So did you grow up Catholic?
I did. Yep. I'm Catholic. I'm from West Texas, Lubbock. Well, outside of Lubbock, there's a very small town of 2,000 something people called Morton.
Okay.
So I grew up there. I did all my schooling there. We moved there when I was 4. My dad was the county attorney there for his whole lifetime.
Where'd you move from?
Lubbock. Yeah.
Okay, Lubbock, then you moved to the small town. Okay. Is that where you were born, in Lubbock?
I was born in Lubbock. Yeah.
Do you remember a lot of dust storms? Is that area of dust storms?
And you should see the tumbleweeds. They're probably about 5 feet in diameter sometimes.
Oh, wow. So they're not small like in the Clint Eastwood movies. They're gigantic.
Yes.
Wow. I didn't even think about that.
And after a big dust storm, you'll drive down the road and there will be tumbleweeds up against all the fences. So.
Did you stay there throughout high school or?
Yeah. So, the school system there's an elementary school. Across the street is the junior high, and then across the street is the high school. So you just pass from one to the next.
You don't have to worry about, I got to find my new school. Or
No. And the whole time I was with probably the same 40 kids.
Wow.
Right.
So did you have a lot of Catholic friends there
Actually, Catholicism is the minority in that town. I mean, it's in the Bible Belt. So most everybody is some form of Protestant or evangelical. And then.
So we're talking small church.
Oh yeah, probably. And kind of a divided church. I'd hate to admit it. There's the Anglo community and then the Hispanic community.
Okay.
So the Hispanic community, I'd say, was 200 people, and the Anglo community was 50. You know, and then some of the Hispanic would attend also the English-speaking mass, but yeah.
But a small parish.
Very.
How many
small.
masses on Sunday? Just one or
2.
two? Just two, and that was it.
And then there's a satellite parish that's called PEP.
PEP?
Yeah, it's a German community.
Okay.
There's probably 6 families that belong to PEP. So anyway, the priest would give mass in Morton and then drive to PEP.
Would
and give one mass.
Have to do it in German?
No, they speak English.
Okay.
Yeah. They speak
that would be cool, though.
Wouldn't it be? If they had preserved all that?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So was your family like heavily involved in the parish since it was such a small parish?
My mom was. Yeah. My dad has grown in his faith.
Okay.
He was raised Protestant and got married in the church with my mom. But my mom was really the one who instilled the faith in us and, made us go to CCE. And she was the CCE coordinator and my CCE teacher for a long time. And yeah.
I mean, I think it's very common in our generation that it was the mothers
Yeah.
that really were the ones that instilled the faith in the kids. Were you involved in like youth group and stuff like that growing up?
So I really had a conversion when I was 16. That was the year I was going through confirmation. And I hate to admit it, I don't think I've ever told my parents that I was going through confirmation, kind of seeing if I was going to get confirmed at the end.
Oh, wow.
And I was really having an existential crisis. It was like, does God really exist?
Uh-huh.
And
it's good to have those questions.
It deepens your faith.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's not wrong to ask the questions. It's, do you look for answers?
So, yeah, some people just ask and then, yeah, I'm not going to look.
Yeah, who cares, So yeah, but I was really seeking answers, asking deep questions. Why are we alive? Like, life is so short. I've always had this feeling like life is so short. Even if you live 100 years, like, isn't that a short period of time? Like,
yeah,
compared to eternity?
Yes.
Yeah. So I went to confirmation. I went to a confirmation retreat. It was called Search. So I think it's kind of an adaptation of the Cursillo movement.
Okay.
And there was a moment in that retreat where someone asked me, do you believe in God? And for me, that was one of those eternal moments, like through my head, I started thinking, if I say yes, like, I have to change a lot of things. I have to, I have to change the way I talk back to my mom. I have to change the things that I am doing.
With your friends.
With my friends, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And if I say no, this girl's going to be like, well, what are you doing in this retreat? So I really feel like there's a moment it's called infused grace. It's when God gives you the grace in the moment. And I said yes. And never looked back. Like, I literally went home and I changed my attitude towards my mom. I changed my behavior. I started getting involved in a Bible study at school. I started volunteering on that same retreat, part of the team. I started teaching CCE.
Wow, so it was like just one moment where everything switched.
Yeah, I listened to the first homily that I actually listened to what the message was.
I know what you're talking about. My wife and I are in the choir. We look at the face, we're like facing directly at the congregation. So you can see some of the teenagers zoning out sometimes. So it's natural. It happens.
Yeah, it's a moment and a gift. Yeah.
That's awesome. So you didn't have to struggle to, it was this grace that was on you.
It just happened, I think. Mm-hmm. I had struggled up to the point. Like, I even remember the battle for myself interiorly going to that retreat. I didn't want to go.
Oh, wow.
And driving to the parking lot, I still remember, I was like, oh, I really don't want to go to this retreat. Like, before you go to an Acts retreat, you're like, why should I go? I shouldn't go. There's so many things I have to do,
And then afterwards, you're like, why did I hesitate? Right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So
that's fantastic. So after that, did you have issues with like friends?
What's
you have
crazy?
To cut anyone out?
I didn't. My friends were, I don't know if they were already involved in their faith or what. I had the same best friend since kindergarten.
Wow.
Except for the one time I punched her in the face and another time that I betrayed her for another friend. But other than that, I had the same best friend all the way through school. And then her cousin was a great friend of mine, and then another girl we ran track with. And so those three friends were my staple, and a couple of guys who were in student council and stuff. So, but I didn't end up having to switch friends. So I guess I wasn't involved in too bad of behavior in high school, but it was
After high school, What was it like for you?
After high school, I went to the Naval Academy. It's the same thread of like life is short. I need to do something valuable was behind that. I really wanted to do something meaningful with my life. And so I thought, well, giving my life to my country, like what would be more meaningful than that?
Mm-hmm.
So I applied to the Naval Academy and got in. And they wanted me to run track, to throw the discus and the shot put.
Really?
Yeah. So that was my dream too. So to go to some school and be able to do track and field. So
okay.
I tried out a couple different religious groups there. I was involved in the Catholic Fellowship for a little while, and then I started going to one that was called Officers Christian Fellowship, and I made some really, really good friends there.
So how long were you
at the Naval Academy?
Yeah.
So I only stayed 2 years.
Okay.
Because in my second year, they call it 2 for 7. Actually, this is a real God moment in my life. So after 2 years, you sign paperwork that says you commit to 7 more years in the Navy.
Okay.
Right. So you go for 2 years for free, and then, you pay back. So 2 more years to get your degree, and then 5 years of service. So anyway, in the summer, right between that, I got invited to do this thing called the Campus Liechtenstein Fellowship. And it was a Catholic fellowship to learn about your faith. And we went to Austria for 3 weeks and to Rome for a week. And we had all these amazing speakers. Janet Smith, who talks about bioethics, Patrick Madrid, apologetics.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we met Pope Benedict when he was Cardinal,
Ratzinger?
Cardinal Ratzinger.
Yes.
Yeah, we went to the Vatican and met him.
That's
he was
cool.
really kind. He was so soft-spoken and just said, he greeted each one of us, like shook our hands and said, hey, what are you learning? Like, where are you from? And then what have you learned? And he was the prefect for the doctrine of the faith, and our course was all about the faith. So he was really interested.
That's cool that you're able to go there. Was it like fully funded or something? How did that work?
They had scholarships.
Okay.
Yeah. So the reason it was called the Campus Liechtenstein Fellowship was because the Prince of Liechtenstein kind of, what do you call it, was a benefactor.
Okay.
Yeah. So the boys stayed at his hunting lodge. I forget the name of the town they stayed in. And we stayed at this big hotel that was on the top of the mountain. Yeah, called Sonntagberg. It was amazing.
That experience there.
So at the end of that month, there were some priests. Well, actually, I think they were brothers. So there were, there's a religious order called the Legionaries of Christ, right? So it was organized by their group, which is called Regnum Christi, right? So there were some women who've dedicated their life to God through vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, who were like our mentors, the girls' mentors. And then there were some seminarians in formation who were brothers who were in charge of the formation for the boys. And there was one priest named Father Patrick McMinimet from Ireland, who was like our chaplain. So, we spent the month there learning about all these topics. But at the end, I was feeling like maybe God wanted something more from me. Like maybe he was calling me to consecrate my life to him. Because I thought, giving your life for your country is good, but giving your life to God, wouldn't that be better?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
at this point, you hadn't signed for the
Navy. No.
5 years.
Yeah. It was like 2 months before I was going to sign that document.
That's cool that they give you the 2 years without requiring you to sign anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
A real gift. So, yeah. Taught me how to make my bed and bounce a quarter off of it. No, I'm teasing. We never bounced quarters, but you did use a ruler.
Herm and I are both Navy brats, by the way.
Oh, really?
In case you didn't know.
Very cool. I did not know that.
Yeah, our dads were in the Navy together in Hawaii, so that's how we know each other. We grew up there together, yeah.
Were they SWOs, service warfare officers?
They were, I guess so. Is that what you would call it, right?
They were on ships mostly?
Yeah, they were on ships for
Okay,
sure. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So you left there
I did.
thinking, okay, I'm not going to sign this. How do you tell them that?
Oh my gosh, that was really stressful. And I didn't have the support of my family because they obviously thought I was nuts. I mean, like with good reason, right? Like you have this appointment to the Naval Academy, you have like a very promising future, and you're going to go do what? Join this random missionary group and do what? So
It's like, yeah, you were 2 years in the academy, and then right when you're at the finish line, it's like, no, let me.
yeah, before I put up with all the BS, you know, them screaming at me, making me do all kinds of crazy stuff.
Did you have to clean toilets and stuff like that?
Oh, yeah, to clean toilets so well. I can tell you where all the cracks are in all the toilets. Like, you can clean my toilet with a white glove and you will not find dust. No. But, yeah, one thing I remember is cleaning bathroom. So every summer we would do a summer cruise. So we would go on some kind of ship and learn about the life. So the first summer, well, the very first summer you go, it's called Plebe Summer. And that's where it's like a boot camp. You get screamed at and all that, you know. But the second summer, you go on this thing called a YP boat. It's a small ship, probably about the size of this room.
Okay.
And then the next summer, you get to go on a real ship with real sailors, but you're going as an enlisted, so that you know like what the enlisted's life is. So when you're an officer, hopefully you won't be a jerk.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I remember on that cruise cleaning the toilets. And for the whole women's group that was there, you know, like the women's room. So yeah, when I smell pine sol, I remember that moment. Yeah, so I mean that was the Naval Academy. Yeah.
And then you came back and then you told your family that.
Yeah, so I mean, and my uncle's a graduate of the academy, so he told me, Liz, you're making the biggest mistake of your life, you know, and I'm like, thank you, I respect you, but I have to figure this out. And my dad was like, whoa, don't expect a dime from us. I'm like, okay, you know, but I have to figure this out. And my mom was more enthusiastic. She was like, wow, you know.
So did you think that you were going to enter the convent or something?
Yeah,
like
I kind of thought I might. Or what I knew was I needed to go and see.
Okay.
So I was willing to give it a year. And what I told everybody was, I'm going to go give it a year with this group and see, and I might come back. Which actually was a possibility. The Mormons do their mission, and I actually met a Mormon the same month. So I did the Compass Fellowship in May.
Okay.
In June, I had my own ship tour. And then in July, I was part of what they call second set detail. So I was one of the screamers that screamed at the new plebes, right? And in
Tables are turned.
Yeah, exactly. It's really fun. But I met this Mormon guy who had just come back from mission. So it was like God's way of telling me, at least I felt it was God's way of telling me, look, Liz, if it doesn't work out, you can come back. Because that's what this kid had done. He had gone off and done 2 years of mission and then had come back.
Okay.
Right. So, yeah, I do remember the interview because you have to interview out. I remember the interview with the captain who was like, why do you want to go? He's like, I don't understand it, but if you want to do this, okay.
Did he really try to convince you?
Me?
Yeah. Or did he just want to make sure that you were certain?
Yeah. I think more than anything, that was what he wanted. So, yeah. So then from there, I went home for a month. It was funny. My dad said, Liz, he got me I think I went home at the beginning of August. And he said, Liz, I couldn't find you any plane tickets earlier than like September 15th or something. Like to New York. As if like flights don't go out every week from Lubbock to Houston to New York, you know, but I was like, okay, fine. I don't mind. I might not be coming back. So that might be okay.
Give you that extra time at home.
Yeah, exactly. So I went up to Rhode Island, which is where the Regnum Christi Mother House was, and started just living there, living with the consecrated women and seeing what their life was like. And then, because I really didn't know the group at all,
Mm-hmm.
From there, they invited me to do what they call the Regnum Christi Mission Corps, which was basically get to know us. Like, you don't want to join, you can't jump straight to consecrating your life with us if you don't even know who we are.
Yeah.
So I was in the Mission Corps for 2 years, and I lived in outside of New York City, Rye, and we would go into the city and do things like theology on tap, run retreats for elementary school girls or families.
Did you try any other orders?
No, I never even thought of another order.
So it was like this or bust.
Yes. Yeah, it was.
Well, you're married now, so
something
what happened?
happens. Yeah. So I stayed there so one thing you have to understand is Regnum Christi has gone through a lot of changes since the time that I entered.
Okay.
At the time that I entered, there wasn't really much of a process of discernment.
Okay.
Right? It was not a formally established process. So we only discerned like 6 weeks, and then we made first vows.
Okay.
So after the 2 years, I did like a week-long spiritual retreat, and then I did a 6-week summer course, and then I took vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience.
Oh, so you actually did take vows. Wow.
I actually did take vows, yeah. And then it's kind of complicated because there's the process I went through, and then there's the process that people would go through now.
Uh-huh.
So they're different, right? Because in 2009, the founder of Regnum Christi was found to be a very bad person.
Mm.
Yeah, there was a huge scandal. So he had been accused for many years of being a pedophile.
Oh, wow.
And in 2009, those allegations were proved true.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it was devastating to all of us, especially all of us that were in, after an extensive investigation, the church decided that it actually was a work of God, Regnum Christi, because the question was,
do we disband this whole thing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is this just made by some really bad person?
Yeah.
Or is this actually a work of God? And so there was a lot of prayer and discernment, and the church found that it was a work of God, but that it needed to be purified of the elements that were from that founder. Yeah. So that's why there's like what I went through, the process I went through, and then what people do now. So,
okay.
So the process I went through was I did the 6-week course, and then actually I had asked in my second year as a missionary to go to Mexico. Okay, because the Regnum Christi movement was founded in Mexico.
Okay.
I don't know why I wanted to go to Mexico. I think because I had met on some of the conventions we had gone to, I had met the Mexican missionaries, and they were just a lot of fun.
Okay.
So I wanted to go be with them. So anyway, I got my wish. After I was consecrated, I went to Mexico.
And you speak Spanish, right?
Because I went to Mexico.
Oh, because you went there. So you went there not knowing really how to speak Spanish.
I mean, I had taken high school Spanish.
I mean, that's not really.
Right? Hola, me llamo Liz. Right? Like...
Yeah, vámonos a la biblioteca, right?
Exactly. Quiero una cerveza.
Yeah,
right?
That's pretty much it, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But you go in there and you're immersed.
Yeah, so I did.
Was it hard at first? Like the whole...
It was, yes, but I loved it. It was hard. There were some people who spoke English, and there were some Americans. So like if I had wanted to speak English, I could have, but I was kind of like hardlining, I am no longer speaking English. So, I studied Spanish for like 4 years, the whole 4 years that I was there.
Oh, wow. 4 years there, huh?
Yeah, because I got my undergraduate degree there. So we were in like a little seminary for Regnum Christi women.
So how many times did you renew your vows while you were there?
Just once. So we did what we called the solemn renewal after 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was 2002, I guess. Yeah.
Wow.
And then, so I was there for 4 years in Monterrey, Mexico. That's where the formation center was. And I studied what they call educación y desarrollo. So education and development, kind of. It's like a pedagogy degree with theology.
Okay.
Yeah. And from there, I was sent to Guadalajara as my mission. And there I worked with teenage girls, junior high and high school girls, and some elementary school girls. Basically, we were mentors, or spiritual directors.
Mm-hmm.
So I did some work with in a school, and then also we have these little clubs where girls would meet to know Jesus and be his best friend, and that kind
Like
of
youth
thing.
group type thing.
Pretty much.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Because in Mexico, they don't really have youth group, and they don't have very much parish life. So that's what we would do. So I was there for 3 years, and that's when we got that big bomb of like the founder being such a bad person.
Did you think of leaving because of the whole scandal?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely crossed everybody's mind. Do we stay here? It just kind of shook everything. And I remember crying and not being able to stop. It just felt like something broke within me,
You feel betrayed. That's why. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Because you had believed. I mean, the worst part was we thought he was a saint.
Oh.
Now I can see, after studying psychology, I'm like, he was definitely a narcissist and possibly had some pathological tendencies. So, very sick person.
Wow.
And yeah, you felt very betrayed. We had really idolized that person, and he was not somebody to be emulated in any way.
Wow.
So. But I think it did help in that it was like, okay, well, if I am going to stay, who's my rock? Christ. So, and I did stay. Like, the reason I left consecrated life was not because of that betrayal. What it did shake up in me though, and this is what trauma does, is when you go through something traumatic like that, if you have lived any previous traumas, it can sometimes bring them to the surface, especially if you're like me, which is like kind of an over-controlled person. You're not an over-controlled person, just so you know.
Okay.
It's somebody who's over-controlled, like swallows everything, stuffs everything. Like, I'm fine. I can handle anything. Yeah, we got this. But deep down, they're like swallowing everything. So just like everything that I had ever suffered in my childhood, which it wasn't really a bad childhood, but everybody goes through stuff in childhood, surfaced. So yeah, I was pretty depressed. Yeah, I think after that. And it also coincided in 2009, the rise in violence in Mexico kind of
yes, that's right. Yeah.
increased. And my parents got very worried about me being blonde and being in Mexico. So they're like, she's a prime target.
Yeah.
So they asked for me to be removed from Mexico.
Oh, they asked?
They asked without my
Oh, boy.
knowing about it. I got this email from my director. Oh, Liz, you're going to be moved in 6 months. We don't know where, but you're going to be moved.
Wow.
I was so mad. I was so mad at my parents. I probably have never told them that, but
It's like, I've been through the Naval Academy. I can take care of myself.
I know, right? And I really didn't feel unsafe. That was the thing, too. We lived in a kind of a bubble that didn't feel unsafe. And so yeah, I received a change. We call it receiving a change when you get assigned to another place. So I came back to Rhode Island to a girls' boarding school, which was really cool. It was Overbrook Academy. I liked the assignment as far as the work and all the people that I was helping. It was a boarding school to teach girls the Catholic faith. They come from other countries to learn English and to strengthen their faith. And so it was a really beautiful mission, but I was depressed. So when you're depressed, it doesn't matter if you're on the beach in Florida, like you're going to feel like everything is gray, So really, I thank God for sending a spiritual director into my life who was really savvy. She said, Liz, after working on hope, on the virtue of hope for a long time, she said, Liz, I think you hope. I don't think this is a question of you having enough faith or hoping. Like, this is something else. Who do you want to talk to? Do you want to talk to a psychologist? Do you want to talk to a counselor? Do you want to get a psychiatrist? Like, and I had no idea what any of those terms. I mean, I didn't know the difference between, right, the different mental health professionals.
They were all just shrinks.
Yeah, somebody I didn't want to talk to because it was taboo, you know. But luckily, with her support, like we got me into counseling, and I started talking to somebody. But even after about a year, I wasn't out of it yet. I wasn't out of it yet, and it was because I hadn't dealt with the stuff from being at home. So I went home. My therapist said, Liz, I think it's time for you to go home.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So this is pretty deep stuff. But I went home for 6 months. And that was a question, like, am I just going to leave Regnum Christi now? Like, I don't know. Maybe I will. But after 6 months, going to therapy, doing family, I was like hardcore. When they say take a break and work on yourself, like, this is what I was doing. I was at home doing family therapy, doing individual therapy, getting better, taking a break from work, you know? Sometimes it's necessary. So after,
and what was your family like about?
You know
the whole
what?
thing?
Thanks be to God. My family was super supportive.
That's great.
Yeah, they had done their own work. Like,
okay,
they had on their own done some counseling.
Okay,
and were in a really good place to just support me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was such a gift, and also it was a grace because I had been away from them for more than 7 years and could experience the growth that they had lived. Right. So like I came back to a family that was different than the family I had left, that was healthier than the family I had left. So
that
was
great.
So cool.
And prepared to help you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
fantastic.
Such a gift. So then after 6 months, I was good. I was ready to come back. So then that's when I was sent to Houston. So that's how I got to Houston.
Did you ever consider going back into the Navy?
You know what? At that time, I didn't.
You already set on giving your life to
Yeah. Yeah, because you know
somehow.
what? That's a great question. Because at that point, I could have gone back maybe, but because I was young enough and didn't have family or anything. And it didn't occur to me. So, yeah. Yeah, I do remember when I was, if we dial it back to when I was giving those missionary years, my Naval Academy coach called me after a year, my track coach, and she's like, hey, Liz, how you doing? You know, are you coming back?
Oh.
And I said, no, I don't think so.
How many times did?
That was the one call.
Just once, okay.
That one call, yeah. I think it must have corresponded with like the next school year going to start.
Okay.
So, yeah. So then I came to Houston, but also I returned to the Regnum Christi community in Houston.
Okay.
So that was beautiful. The community here was just a really beautiful community of women. And then unfortunately we took another blow as a community of Regnum Christi.
Oh no.
Yeah, there were some members of Regnum Christi who weren't happy with the speed of the renewal process.
Okay.
And they felt that that particularly the priests in the Legion weren't changing fast enough or reforming fast enough. And so they decided to form their own group.
Oh boy.
Which really wouldn't be a problem, except they did it kind of clandestinely. And then it came out as, oh, we're canonically founded. So anyway, I guess just the exodus of some key members of the leadership of the consecrated women then kind of shook things up again.
Okay.
You know, so unfortunately, my story is a little bit of the darkness of the church, you know. I mean, not that people following their conscience is dark, but I think that there can be pain and hurt and sadness, you know.
Did the Vatican look into it again and say, hey, let's take another look at this community? No.
No, they were fine with it. I mean, I think they just saw it as people branch off and create. Like, I mean, there's how many branches of Franciscans are there?
Yeah.
How many branches of Dominicans are there?
So it's just
Right.
another branch. It's not as scandalous as that first thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, they're not, I guess that analogy that I just made isn't exactly accurate because they're not any way associated with Regnum Christi anymore. But anyway, but I guess I mention it because it was painful for me. Some of my friends left after that.
Yeah.
You know?
People you've gone close to.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was painful.
Is that why you left the community?
No, not necessarily. Like, I think I got over that. But I did find myself after that getting depressed again. And I couldn't shake it. So, I entered counseling again and then really dealt with even, I guess, what I'm trying to say is we all have issues, and I think God heals us in layers. Like, we get to a point where we think I'm all good. And then God says, hey, here's another little something you can heal.
Yeah.
Or
Yep.
that wasn't quite healed. Or what about this area? So I think that's why, like, God wanted to lead me to greater healing in more areas of my life. So, because I was depressed, I sought counseling again. And then after working out of that depression, I still felt like I was swimming upstream, living consecrated life. It just felt kind of heavy. I don't know how to explain it other than, like, the obedience was heavy, the poverty was heavy. I didn't feel like it was giving me freedom. I didn't feel like it was giving me, like, I was flourishing. And the other people around me could see that I wasn't flourishing.
Oh.
So
Did they say things to you?
Well, so one of my directors came to me and she was like, I was sharing with her how I was doing, and she told me, Liz, why don't you try living outside the community for a while? Why don't you get an apartment? Why don't you find a part-time job? Why don't you find what gives you life? God wants you to thrive. God does not want you to just struggle, Was
that scary, the prospect of
leaving? Yeah. For sure. Yeah, I think I had fought it for a long time, or not wanted to look at it,
Because you'd lived in the structure of the Naval Academy, then the structure of consecrated life, and now it's like, okay.
Yeah, go live on your own.
Yes.
Yeah. It was definitely scary. It was, but God was there too. Like, the first place that I went to live was actually a community. It was the garage apartment owned by the community of John Michael Talbot. So John Michael Talbot's community had a house in Houston in the Spring area near Prince of Peace. And they rented the garage apartment to me. And I knew that was where God wanted me, because I opened the closet door and that was the back of their chapel. The tabernacle was right there.
Oh, wow.
So, like, I had Jesus in my bedroom. So, like, I just knew that God was with me. I was doing what I needed to be doing by moving out of the community, And that's actually when I applied at St. Faustina. So, to be the receptionist.
Yes.
Yeah, I got that job. I had known Father Dat from vocations tables, vocations, like, panels that we had done together.
Okay.
So he knew a little bit of me. We didn't really know each other, but so then that was where my journey with St. Faustina started. I got hired on there.
How long were you there?
5 years.
5 years?
Yeah, it started at the warehouse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. 5 years. It didn't even seem that long.
I know, right? Yeah, it didn't seem like that to me either. Yeah.
What do you remember the most about your time there at St. Faustina? You were there for the early days.
Yes.
To the building.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was really cool. With Cliff Aldrich would take us to go see the progression on the building.
Yeah.
How it was coming along. daily mass in the chapel in the back of the warehouse.
Yes,
really
that little
special.
chapel, yeah.
I think everyone missed the gathering for coffee after mass, because you know how you had to walk out of the office
Yes.
to get out of after the mass. So everybody would file by and people would grab coffee and people would chat on the way out. So it was like a very tight community feeling, you know. Sunday mass with people sitting next to you, like you had to sit squeezed like this. So,
at the school?
yes.
Yes.
We were so happy to get those wider chairs when we moved into the new building, you know?
So from your receptionist job to what you're doing now, counseling, how did you transition into that?
So part of living outside of the community was figuring out what would help me to thrive.
Okay.
Right? Like using our gifts and talents is part of what helps us to be happy.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So I I was between counseling and physical therapy, which sound like opposite jobs kind of, but that, you know, it's helping people heal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I shadowed a physical therapist and I actually really liked that. But I kept thinking, I'll be helping people rehab their knee, or asking them, you know, how's your life going? So I thought, okay, let me try out counseling. And I started going to a master's program in counseling while I was the receptionist there. So, yeah, I did that it took me 4 years to get my master's, which, you know, usually people do it in 2, but
I mean,
if you're working,
yeah.
you know. So, yeah, that's where I started.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and I remember when you told us that you were leaving.
Oh, yeah.
So at what point did you meet your husband?
Oh, that is a whole story. Yeah, 2018. I was dating, not dating. I was going to young Catholic events for young adults in Houston. And not finding anybody like in my age bracket, of course.
So you were on the
older ones. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I got on Catholic Match, the online dating service. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So one night, the Holy Spirit, I think, told me to Google widowed men in the Katy area. And his profile popped up. I think widowed men because I was like, well, somebody who's widowed has suffered, right? And doesn't have the complicated baggage of a divorce, right? They could, but yeah, I think that's why I was looking at widowed men. I don't know, I guess, because the regular men in Katy didn't bring up anything. I don't know. I have no idea.
Just try something different.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. And so anyway, his profile popped up and I texted him through the message app. And hey, I see you live in Katy. What church do you go to? And he says, St. Faustina. And I said, oh, no way. I'm the receptionist there. So that was how we started chatting. Yeah. And then we kept talking. And then his daughter was going to go. So he has she's now 21. At that time, she was 17 and a sophomore in high school.
Okay.
Was going to go on the confirmation retreat. So he didn't have any time to go out with me to meet up after we had talked for a while, like through the app. He didn't have any time to meet up because he was going on dates with other people. I didn't get the Friday night slot right away. Like, all he had left over was Sunday morning.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So our first date actually was to St. Faustina for Mass. And then we went for brunch.
Oh.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
Not a bad first date.
No, not at all. Not in my book.
Yeah.
It was a perfect first date.
Yeah.
Because my prayer had been, so part of my discernment too was like, sorry that I cut myself off in the middle of a sentence, but my part of my discernment had been, do I just consecrate myself in the diocese? Do I continue serving as a single person? What do I do? And I just felt this longing within my heart to not be alone.
Okay.
And God was really speaking to me of marriage for probably the first time in my life. And So the desire that I had, though, was to find someone who I could hold their hand in Mass, not just in real life. What do you call that? Figuratively, but I mean also figuratively.
Okay, so not just physically.
Yeah, not just physically, also figuratively. Like would be at my same level as far as loving God and wanting God to be the center of their life and wanting to live their faith. And so holding hands with this guy in Mass on the first date was like very appropriate. It was very cool.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah.
And the rest is history.
Yeah, kind of. His mom and dad decided to come and see who was this girl. After we went on a few dates, his mom and dad showed up at my office. Like they're an Italian family, you know? So yeah, one day I get this text, Liz, my parents are on their way up there. He's like so embarrassed.
Like, who's this woman that's taking all the other dating slots away from the other?
Yes. Who's this woman who my son's talking about? Like, let's go make sure she's an okay woman, right? Like, so that was cute. And
so what was that like when they first went over?
Oh, actually, it was wonderful. They were so warm and kind, and I don't know what they were checking out. I guess I matched all the boxes because they were
So
very
is it true
nice.
that talking with the hands for
Oh,
Italians?
yes.
Completely true?
Yes. And food pushers. Let me tell you, food pushers. Don't you want more? You haven't had seconds yet. Do you need more?
That's fantastic.
They're wonderful. Yeah.
So what was it like with the daughter? Was there any resistance there?
So my husband was very protective of his daughter, you know, which every parent should be if they're dating to find another spouse, you know. So I didn't meet her until we were pretty serious. And we met up at an Italian restaurant for the first time and had Rosa's pizza and cannolis. And, you know, she's just very sweet. She was very accepting. She knew and she's very mature for her age. And even at that time, right? And she's like, I'm not going to be around for my dad forever. Like, I cannot make him like center his life on me alone. He needs to have somebody else. And his wife she had cancer 3 times. So she knew she was not in good health. And she had told him before, like, if I pass, you can find somebody else, please. So I think that was helpful.
Don't be alone. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be alone. Don't be alone. Yeah. So that was really helpful.
That's great. So how many kids do you have now?
So now I have 2.
You have 2 now.
So in not long after getting married, we got married in June of 2001 after COVID. We had a son, May of 2022, and his name is Dominic Bencivengo the 4th.
The 4th, okay.
Yeah, he has the joy. Oh my gosh. If I had known how much of a blessing it is to have children, it would have made it much harder to be consecrated. So he's 2 now, actually, because he was born in 2022.
Okay. And then, wow, that's great. So now you're getting ready for school and all of that stuff, thinking about that in the next couple of years, huh?
Oh, yes. Yeah, he actually starts preschool here at St. Bartholomew in September. So that'll be good for him. Yeah.
Cut the umbilical.
Yeah. Well, because I work, I also had to, step away quite a bit already. He loves the nanny more than me. And my husband and I are the B team. We are, so
that's fantastic. So tell us what you do here at St. Bart's and at St. Faustina for Rejoice.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm a licensed professional counselor and a licensed marriage and family therapist. So I see people with all types of mental illness or just a desire to live a healthier life. So very typical things that people come to talk to me about are feeling depressed, feeling anxious, having to deal with adult children who are making decisions you don't agree with, marital problems. So as a marriage and family therapist, I can see pretty much anyone, couples, individuals, children over 6 years old, teenagers, So I'm here most days, pretty much all day. Well, depending on the location.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm just available. We see people for an hour or 40. We call it a 45-minute hour.
Okay.
Because it's actually 45 minutes because we need to have some time between clients, right? But
So if somebody wants to avail of the services, how do they go about that?
so they can actually go to either the St. Bartholomew website or the St. Faustina website. And there is a Rejoice Counseling tab on the website that you can either fill out the form or call our phone number.
Okay.
So, or they could just Google rejoicecounseling.com and then look for their parish. So if they're in the greater Houston area, we are at 15 parishes within the Archdiocese. And hopefully expanding also to San Marcos soon. We have one parish in Dallas. So people would just go to rejoicecounseling.com and then look up their parish. And then if you're not a part of a parish or you're not even Catholic, we will still see you. The thing is, if parishes partner with us, their parishioners receive a discounted rate.
What is the benefit of, going to the Catholic counseling?
So as a Catholic, going to a Catholic counselor, you'll have someone who shares your values. All counselors are not supposed to impose their values on anybody who comes to them. But I do think it's different to come to a counselor who would be open to praying with you, or who would be open to asking you about your prayer life, or who would be open to giving you homework that's related to your faith or to praying. And then there are some issues that families deal with that you really need someone who holds your own same perspective, right?
Yeah.
If you're people dealing with same-sex attraction, people dealing with pornography, people dealing with gender issues, even marriage and divorce, those topics, you can really benefit from having somebody who shares your faith background.
Yeah, understands the church teachings as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. This is where you want your values to be at. They understand that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
Because one of the factors for success in counseling, actually, the biggest factor that they've shown in research is connection with your therapist. And so if you feel really connected to your therapist, you feel like they really get you, you're probably going to make progress faster. So that's where I see, if you can go to anybody, but if you go to somebody who gets you, you're going to make connection better and you're probably going to advance faster. Yeah.
So I understand Katie's with y'all now.
Yeah, isn't that exciting?
I know.
We're so excited to have Katie. She is such a wonderful person.
Yeah, because when we interviewed her on the show, she was, still a youth minister at St. Faustina, but she did say something about wanting to go into counseling.
Yeah.
Eventually. So now it's the big leap now for her.
Absolutely. She's been working with us for most of this year so far. I think she started in March or January, and she's here 3 days a week now at St. Bartholomew.
So we'll probably run into her when we do interviews every once in a while here as well.
Yeah.
The way we run into you in the hallway every once in a while.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That's fantastic. So you said you do individual, couples. What other services do y'all have at Rejoice?
So we have bilingual counseling. I think that's important to highlight. Many of our counselors speak Spanish, and then we recently brought on a Vietnamese speaker as well.
Oh, so that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll open up counseling to a lot more people.
What would you say to somebody who's thinking of possibly, going to counseling, thinking, I need to see counseling, but they hesitate? What would you say to them?
I would say, have no fear. Be not afraid, in John Paul II's words, right? Thanks be to God, I think counseling is becoming more acceptable. We all go through things in life. We could all use an outsider's perspective. We can all use somebody else's wisdom, advice, or let the Holy Spirit speak through them. And so I would just say, just take the leap. It's helped me a lot, and I know a lot of people who it's helped.
What about to somebody who is averse to counseling because, I can just pray? What would you say to them?
I would say prayer is very important, right? We want to know what God wants for us. But I would say that prayer, our Lord even said sometimes, like, the apostles went to Jesus and they said, why can't we get this demon out? And he said, well, prayer and fasting, right? But there were moments too when Jesus would touch someone, when he would use physical means to heal them. And so God uses people to heal other people. And God is the healer. God is the one who is going to heal us. But sometimes we need to go to the doctor. Like if you had a heart condition, this is the difference between us and the Christian scientists. Like Christian scientists don't go to the doctor. They say, we are going to pray and it's going to be healed.
Yeah.
Right. Well, no, Catholics, we go to the doctor because God gives the doctor wisdom and the doctor knows how to heal us. Right. So it's the same thing with mental illness and mental conditions, that we can go to someone who has specialized in that field, who has a Christian perspective, who can help us to heal that thing that's going on.
Thank you so much for everything that you do.
You're
God
welcome.
bless you and all of you at Rejoice and all the work that you guys do.
Thank you. Please pray for us.
We will, definitely.